Welcome to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast, a show for women entrepreneurs who want to build, grow, and lead successful businesses and high-performing teams. I'm your host, Lindsay White, leadership coach and people strategy expert, here to bring you unplugged conversations with a variety of amazing guests who share expert advice and real actionable people strategies for your growing business. Ready to get unplugged? Let's jump in. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I am so excited. I have my friend Kim here, who is the co-founder and CEO of Door Gurus, co-host of the podcast, Mr. and Mrs. CEO. We just recorded an episode, her and I, for that show, which I cannot wait to listen to. She is also the best-selling author of Awkward Family Dinners. Love it. I've been in a part of a few of those. Thank you, Kim, for being here on the show. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. This was a great hookup when we finally met. I know we've both been circling in each other's worlds for a bit. And we were like, let's do a double podcast because we speak each other's language. Yeah, so I'm really excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. So I just want to talk about a couple of things. The Awkward Family Dinners is actually a book my husband and I co-authored,
Love
and
it.
it's about family business.
Love it.
Because we've had four. We're on our fourth family business. And over the 35 years or 31 years, sorry, people would ask us that all the time. Boy, you guys must have some awkward family dinners.
Right?
Finally, we'd always be like, we should write a book. We should write a book. And then finally we're like, we should write a book. So we
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
I love that because when you mix business and family together,
Yeah.
that is next level.
It really is. It really started off with the premise, and you'll probably really relate to this. People in business, when when you don't want to be responsible for the outcome of something in your business, you say, this is not personal, it's business.
Right.
And this phrase, as family business owners and family business stakeholders, you don't even have to be an owner, but a stakeholder in a family business. This is in business in general, this phrase is thrown around a lot. And over the years, and we used to say it until it got to the point where I realized that this phrase allows for a lack of accountability. It kind of prefaces that I'm about to do something that I'm not going to be responsible or accountable for, but it's going to be bad, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to like it, and I don't care. I'm sorry. It's a way to, be not accountable. And so that is where that was really the premise of the book, but that's really what leads to the awkward. And our podcast, you and I earlier, we were talking about courageous conversations, but that's really the preface of where those awkward and courageous conversations come from, is when you have these very deeply personal relationships inside of commerce, business.
Yeah.
It is very personal.
Of course it is.
And even if it's not a personal relationship that you're already got inside of a business, it's still personal because it's somebody's livelihood.
Exactly.
And so really the book is really an example of the ways in which Darren and I failed as leaders, and because really learning comes from failure. Success comes from failure. It really does.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't. So some people in our family were nervous about the book. They're like, "Oh, you're going to make us look like assholes, and blah blah blah, and this is going to be a bunch of gossip." And when I went through it all, I was like, "We actually look like idiots, my husband and I." Like, who would want to be ready? Because it comes from our learning.
Right. I love that. I love that you were vulnerable enough to share, sort of 30 years in business and in family business.
Yeah.
And share those failures, those moments of imperfection and the lessons, right?
Yeah, they're hard. Some of them are hard. We've lost relationships. I still grieve to this day of a relationship that we lost.
Yeah.
I lost, like a family relationship. And so there's the tea in there in a way that is respectful to all the parties. We think we even the matriarch of our family read it, and I was like, ugh. but it's a small book. It's a quick read. I don't even know where it is. Somewhere around here. It's a quick
She
read.
can't
But
even read
anyway,
her own book. I
yeah,
love it.
it's somewhere around here. I don't
And
know
I
somewhere.
think, to your point, it is always personal. We put our blood, sweat, and tears, and some of us are life savings into these
Yeah,
damn businesses. And
yeah,
on the other side, people are counting on us
yes,
to pay them and sustain their life. And so it's always personal.
it is.
It 100% of the time.
Yeah,
You can still operate with professionalism and kindness
yes,
and dignity, even in
yes.
those awkward, crunchy conversations.
Yeah. One, and that's what even in the book I had written that like people are so afraid that if they come from that place
Yeah.
of being kind and personal and accountable, you can still have you will have actually a more efficient,
Yeah.
which means more profitable business. But people think that you either have to be one or the other. You either have to be this hippie love, like everybody
Yeah.
just show up and do whatever whenever there's no
Yeah.
accountability,
Yeah.
and
No,
it's not like that. But
no.
I think that's the fear. But I think the people, the leaders that fear that, there is a level of intimacy or an adequacy that they feel that they're
Yes.
uncomfortable with, right? So that's what
100%.
gets, yeah, it
I
gets
think
very
you're
complicated. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's that we don't know if we can self-regulate enough.
Yes.
Um, I call it the V word, and it's not vagina. It is vulnerability. I know I do this when I do workshops. I'm like, it's the V word, but it's not the V
Not
word.
vagina.
It's not the V word, but it's the same. It elicits the same reaction in
Yeah.
the context of being a business owner and being a business leader. Because I use the two phrases interchangeably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you might as well say vagina in the middle of a meeting like that, because
Just,
when you say vulnerability, the reaction is quite similar, ironically.
yeah,
How to be vulnerable and still be a business owner? It like it's a thing. You can do it, right?
yeah, I was talking last year to she is a what is that? Anyway, she was talking, she does the Enneagram.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and she said there's a big difference. Being transparent is easy after the fact,
yeah.
right? Transparency comes after you've completed or gone through, but vulnerability is when you're going through it,
Yeah,
right? And so she just helped me kind of articulate the
I
difference
love that.
between so I'm like, I'm very transparent. She goes, it's easy to be transparent after.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's harder for people like me, let's say, as from where I came from. It's easier for me to be transparent after the fact. Vulnerability is what, for me as a leader, is what I need to lean into. I
yes,
don't naturally need to be strive to be a leader because I am a leader. That has how I was born into all of that. But
yeah,
what my weakness is the vulnerability.
yes,
So learning to be vulnerable with the team has
yeah.
been my teachings and my learnings in order to balance that.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, because for me, um, yeah, I mean, I was born into I'm a twin. I'm the oldest of five. We were like a litter of kittens. We were born and raised in East
Right.
Vancouver. Street
Yeah.
kids. I was a foster kid.
Wow.
Always had to rely on myself and
Yes.
learn to take care of myself and others around, all
Yes.
that, it's a very typical poor childhood,
Yeah.
childhood abuse, like all that kind of stuff. And it created an independence in me,
Of course it did.
right? And a strength in me. I don't need your help. I
No.
can manage. And
Right.
so over the years, that's great, very
Yeah.
successful in that, but it can be very harsh,
Of course.
right, in that space. So learning the vulnerability piece just then adds a dimension to your leadership for me that surprises people.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And what it does, I think, is then encourage that same behavior. Because when we as the business leader show up and we can be vulnerable, and we're not, okay, let's define that. We're not talking about overshare,
There's a
right?
difference, yes.
Difference. talking about saying things like, this is awkward for me. I'm struggling with this. That's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Not, I'm in the middle of a divorce and I think my husband's sleeping around. That's an overshare. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to be clear because I think
No,
people
that's a
hear the
really
word
good
vulnerability and
distinction.
they don't know what to make of it. But
No,
show,
that's a really good distinction because
yeah.
people think oversharing is being vulnerable, telling everything. That's
Yeah,
not
no,
vulnerable.
don't
Yeah.
do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that. But I think that when we can lean into that, as you said, and say, I feel very awkward, then
Yeah.
people respond and say, yeah, I'm super uncomfortable. Okay, now we are actually in the same space together.
Right.
Then we can
Uh,
have really great connection and conversations. We can get to better solutions, which makes our business more effective and efficient, and then it makes more money.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and that's been my own experience as I've grown through many different businesses, many different, well, just one career, but many different leadership positions.
Yeah,
That's been my own experience as well.
I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That was very vulnerable and really wonderful that you shared. I love the way you articulated that. Um, I am super curious about, founding and running a business with your husband.
Oh my God.
Okay, she's putting her head in her hands.
Oh my God. I'm
Clearly,
going to try to
figured
be
it out.
vulnerable and not overshare.
Right? Let's just take it down a really winding path.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be successful at that is hard work.
Yeah, it's interesting because my husband and I have had three other businesses together,
Yeah,
and I've had a career prior to this last business that we're working on, Door Gurus. And it's interesting because the three other businesses we owned independently, so we own them like I mean legally we own them together, like we
right.
were Cheryl, all that.
Yeah.
But they were run independently. So I ran two of them, him and his
Ah,
right? He ran the other one, and neither one was part of the operations or like the formal strategic development or any of that kind of stuff of the two businesses. Although we were both, so we were two entrepreneurs in the
yes.
same household. Okay, so now the last 3 years, 2 years, we have shifted to actually building a business together from scratch.
Ah,
This has been an interesting journey because now we've taken two very independent leaders, both with their own success,
right. Yeah.
and we're bringing them together, and we don't have anyone to regulate us but ourselves.
Watch out. Watch.
So, yeah. So that has been, on two parts, learning each other as business leaders and learning to respect each other's view and vision because we're very different
Yeah.
is one thing. And then also the journey it's taking us on as a married couple is a
Yeah.
different journey than what we had before. And so it's been really interesting. I mean, it's great, but there definitely is like when you're building a business, when you're in build mode, so we're in the first 3 years, and that is like heavy, and we're funding it ourselves. Like, so this is self-funded, it's built by us. We have a few team members now. Um, and I'll come back to that. But when you're building, the two of you are building something like that, and we're building a franchise. So just for your listeners,
Yeah.
like we're building a franchise system. So we're
Yeah.
franchisors. We're
Yeah.
selling, we're selling franchise territories across Canada. Um, in it, and we are first to market in our industry as well. So we are trailblazers.
Yeah.
It all sounds so romantic, but what it means is it's hard fucking work.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking that. It sounds awesome on the outside. I'm sure you're like a duck. You're paddling
Yeah.
like hell underneath.
And so what happens is you have both of us in this like masculine drive energy, right?
Yeah.
And in an area, both of us are in areas that are foreign to us. And so it will trigger different insecurities and different,
Yeah.
bandwidth points. And
Yeah.
so it's been interesting navigating all of that. And just the other day, I said to my husband, I'm like, I think we need to kind of like take a pause, and figure out like the not the marriage thing, but like it's very different because he just left his business after 45 years. So he's
Yeah.
also unwinding and undoing
Yeah.
at the same time as we're rebuilding. And so it's just interesting. It's definitely, it's fun. It's challenging. So one of my daughters and my daughter-in-law, and then a dear friend of ours, and my assistant, who is my daughter's friend, they all work for us in our marketing department, marketing and technology. And sometimes my husband and I'll get into a little bicker, not
Sure.
arguing, but like we have difference of
Yeah, yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And we're both so independent. And then we got this, our team will be standing there and they're all in their 30s. So they're like our kids. And they're like, kids in the room. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're not arguing. We're just like, they're like, yeah, kids in the room. Or like my husband was doing a photo shoot in the shop and he was posed on a truck and he looked great. So I come in because I'm not part of the marketing team. I just enjoy what they do. And I'm like, whoa, sexy papa. And they all just were like, oh my God, please don't.
And to leave the room.
Yeah.
Leave the
Kids
room.
in the room, kids in the room. So it
I
definitely
love
is.
that they say that though. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So it is it's a very expansive and building uh project and process. Definitely has brought us a variety of different paths.
I love that. There's two things. First of all, I love that despite the fact that you've both been very successful business owners, grown very successful businesses, had careers of your own, that you are still so invested in continuing to grow and learn and progress and build. Because I think that's really cool. And that if nothing else, you clearly both have that in common, right? You
And
are
yeah,
always learning and growing. And I love and respect that. And I think the second thing is, as someone who works with leaders and leadership teams and has for almost 20 years, I know that co-leading is one of the trickiest spaces,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
When we are leading in partnership with someone else, you're in partnership with your husband, that's next level, right?
yeah, yeah,
When we're leading in an organization and it's a cross-functional team, and so there's multiple leaders involved, or even in a small business where we're thinking about adding maybe an operations manager,
yeah.
someone who's going to actually deal with the day-to-day work and leadership. And we are the business owner and we have to work with, like, that's a tricky space. And you have to sleep with them every night. So that adds a whole nother layer of complicated.
Well, it does with him and I because and he's much more of a doer. He loves field work. He
Hmm.
loves the customer facing work,
Mhm.
where I do all the kind of back end business building. And so, but I still struggle. Like we just brought on a fractional marketing
Mhm.
guru, as we like to keep everything on brand, and learning to co-lead and make decisions, even with, and she's a dear friend.
Yeah.
And so we're navigating multiple
Yeah.
roles as
Yeah.
well, right? Relationship roles. And we're both very conscientious and aware. And we have those discussions frequently about, she had to gently guide me because I was being resistant. And she's like, I just want us to return to the conversation about you hiring me for
Oh,
outside of
nice.
the box thinking. And here you keep wanting to stay inside of the box.
Ooh,
Right. And so
crunchy.
learning to, right. So we both have this level of like, there's just not the ego there, right? Where like
Ah,
I feel challenged because this was the conversation we started at the beginning. And so Darren and I, as married people, there's much more innuendo and blurred conversations because they happen while we're making dinner. We
yeah.
have something called the bubble bath boardroom. Our blog is actually called the bubble. We were going to call our podcast that, because my husband has a bubble bath every night of the year. Doesn't matter. Unless we're traveling and they don't have a bathtub. And in fact, he'll even try to turn the shower into a bathtub in a hotel. And so quite often at the end of the night, he'll have a bath every night, and I'll jump in for like 5 minutes because I don't actually like the bathtub. I don't like jacuzzis or anything, but I'll jump in there and we'll have a bathtub for a bubble bath for like 5, 10 minutes. He stays in for 2 hours, but we'll have really good conversation. And if there's something that's sparky, and I don't mean sexual, but I mean like something, that's a different
Like
thing,
I
but
want to electrocute him.
right.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be that escalated when you're both naked and sweating from the
And
heat
covered
of
in
the bubble.
bubbles.
Yeah. And so it really is a good way. And then sometimes we have just really good conversations that bring some clarity because we're both in a vulnerable state. We're in the same state then.
Yes. Yes. And I want to be clear. If you are running a business and you have a co-leader, do not run a bubble bath and ask them to jump in. That's inappropriate.
HR flag on the
Yeah,
play.
flag on the play. Don't do that. But I love what you said at the end, which is we're both on equal footing.
Yeah.
And so get get out of the office if you work physically together. Get off Zoom and go for coffee if you can.
Yeah.
Shift the dynamic so that it's not, the normal state of affairs. Bring it down a notch,
Yeah.
right? So that you can connect in a different way. I think that's actually really cool. I think
Yeah.
it's really
It's kind
cool.
of, couples that work together, like, oh, we go for a walk and debrief
Yeah.
and stuff.
What a
And, back in the day in social work days, we did a lot of debriefing. But I find in marriage and especially in building this business, so our conversations have shifted, for the better part of 25 years, the conversation was always around our days, but now
yeah.
our days are very experiencing the same a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm gonna whisper this. I mean, like he'll call me 12 times a day and I can't even answer the phone. I'm like, dude. So now I finally just started saying, like, can you save it all up? And
Yeah.
then be like, hey, honey, how was your day? Let's talk about all the things. Instead of like telling me every single thing along the way. Unless it's imperative to my day or something we need to know. Like,
Right.
anyway, so it's kind of funny,
I think that's
but
hilarious.
yeah.
I want to continue because we just recorded Kim's podcast, and now I want to continue that conversation. We were talking about culture,
Oh, yes.
especially in small businesses, and I want to go back to that because that is a conversation that is so often overlooked until it's like critical, like the patient is bleeding and the patient's your business.
Yeah.
Because culture, you figured that out. Culture is key.
And we figured out through, like I said before, trial and error, right? You learn from lessons. And one of the businesses that I had, there was a manager. I bought the business with an existing business, and and it had a store manager already who was going to stay. Okay.
Right,
Had no intention of
right.
replacing her. But there was some red flags with just the little ones. I call them pink flags, things that
Yeah.
comments that she would make that just kind of like were demeaning and disrespecting.
Ooh,
Just little bits, just little
ooh,
bits. And I was trying to be like kind of easy, not easy,
right,
be like, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to replace you.
right.
Like I'm training my daughters in the store, but they're not going to, well, they're going to have to work as hard as everybody else. Yes, we
Yeah.
understand that. Like there was just all these conversations. And then, a couple, 4 or 5 years, but I needed her. So this is where I think the trouble comes
Ah,
because I had a career too, and I had this
right,
business. And so I needed her to take care of the business.
right,
And I ended up always just trying to like do as best as I could to acknowledge her
right.
position in the business, her hard work in the business, how valuable she was, but there's always these little underlying digs. And
Uh,
then we wanted to build a website. So we wanted to take it and get a little bit more expansive. This was back before, this is when e-commerce was first coming out.
okay, yeah.
And she absolutely refused. No, I'm not doing it. And I
Oh,
was like, well, we have come to the point now that we have to incorporate this to expand, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And she unloaded on me right there in Milla's store. And I was finally at a place, like, I was just like, I needed her so bad. I was now at a place where I was either going to continue this or I'm just going to have to rip the band-aid off
Yep.
and figure shit out. So I just let her go right on the spot. I said,
Yeah.
this is
No.
it, blah, 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 walked her out. And then I heard from every single employee, all the toxics,
Yeah, that's a shame.
right? And so really I learned, so now in this business, I'm really aware of the culture and I'm really trying to be very conscientious and connected to building the culture because the people are what are going to build your business. I'm not the one out there doing the
No,
work.
no,
I'm building the people to build so that they build the business.
yeah,
Right? They're the front line. They're in the
yeah,
what I say in the revenue generating work.
yeah, they are.
And so I really try to be really conscientious of what it takes to create culture. So I love the conversation
Oh man.
or to create good culture.
Well, what a devastating, and I mean, not only do you have to then, exit someone who is so key to your business, it must have just
Yeah,
been like gut punch after another to find out that actually everyone had felt like she was really not treating them well. Like
correct.
persecuting is almost the word that comes to my mind.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and we sort of talked about this before. Like, what can you do? Well, you like as the business owner, you've got to keep your eyes and ears open, right? And you
Yeah.
sort of said that before. Like you have to be paying attention. What are those pink flags? I love that,
Yeah.
right? Are people showing up late to work? Are they sick a lot? Are you experiencing turnover? Right?
Yeah.
Someone comes in, only works for a month or two or three, and then they're gone again. What's happening there? Like that's where you got to get curious, right? And so,
Yeah.
man, that's a hard lesson to learn.
I've recently started reading the book, The Culture Code. Have you read that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I started reading that just a couple weeks ago, and I'm just in the first, whatever, 40 pages, the first section on belonging. And
Belonging.
yeah, that connection and the belonging. And it's really powerful. The one study on the kindergartners and
Yeah.
the executives building whatever they had to some tower with spaghetti noodles and marshmallow.
Yes.
And I just loved the way it was demonstrated. And I thought this would be a great team activity to do
Yeah.
with my own organization, just to see the difference between, how often we think so much with our head that it's like whoever's the smartest or the most efficient or
Yes.
whatever. And really, culture is built by proximity, it's built by a sense of belonging, it's built right by all those
Yeah.
other things. Anyway, it's fascinating to me. So it's really is the rabbit hole
It
as
is.
we build this new organization because we're recruiting franchise partners. So culture
Yeah.
is really important because who we recruit are going to be they are going to be representing our brand
Yes.
in another like and they're building
Yes.
a business on it. So
Yes.
for us, I felt like this is really the piece that I'm leaning into. And what's really interesting, Lindsay, is as I mentioned, my husband left his 45-year career or business and career. And as he's unwinding from that, because that takes some time. You
Oh
think
yeah.
like it's not like 3 weeks later, you're like, oh, now
No,
what?
no.
It's years and years of unpacking. And what
Years.
he is seeing
Yeah.
is the toxic culture
Oh.
that he perpetrated or perpetuated, I
Oh.
should say, um, and contributed to. And because it's a generational business that he had, family
Okay.
generation, it's still in effect and impacting us now. So we're
Oh.
out of it, and it's impacting family relations. And it's just when you see, and I had asked him, I said, why didn't you just buy that business out, buy them out, and
Yeah.
buy that business and do what we're doing now? And he said, because the culture was so bad,
You
I
hear
would
that
have had
a lot.
to burn the whole place down.
Yeah. It, li- uh,
Surrender.
it's such, I mean, you hear it a lot. The toxic culture, I burnt out.
Yeah.
It caused stress, anxiety, overwhelm. Takes a lot. I get it. The like actually you're like you have to really undo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
sad.
yeah. It's wild to him now. He's like, man, and sometimes he goes and apologizes for the part that he played. Again, I don't think toxic culture is, and maybe this is my belief always that humans are, I have a fundamental belief that humans always want to do better.
Yes, of course.
And so I really believe that, like, I don't think people set out to build shitty culture or toxic
No.
culture. I think because of what we talked about before, because of a lack of understanding of what it takes,
Yes.
Build good culture, you will build toxic culture instead
Yeah.
if you don't
I,
have that.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think on the other side, to actually fix it,
Yeah.
it takes the right intention,
Yes.
an understanding of what do you want it to look like, inclusion of some really key values,
Yeah.
and then actually the fortitude to continue to make it happen in spite of resistance,
Yes.
spite of anxiety, in spite of what can sometimes be like real attitude,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It does
Yeah.
mean sometimes that people have to exit if they cannot understand that the culture needs to shift.
Yeah.
Um, but it can be done.
Yeah.
It definitely takes some time and some reprogramming almost,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
argue.
Yeah, I,
Um,
I would agree. Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm trying hard now in this in this business. This is our final kick at the can. This is our fourth business, like having kids. You're like, this is the last one.
Let's
This is, and then you start having, you have the kid and you're like, oh shit, I forgot about the sleepless nights and the diapers and the, safeguarding the place. And oh my gosh, I can't leave them for, you forget about all that hard work in the beginning. That's where we're at now. So we call our business is at the baby stage
yeah.
where all hands on deck and all resources on deck. So we call it it's our fourth and final. But yes, because this is kind of the legacy of Darren and I together, we're taking the parts of our experience that we found the most profitability and underserved out of our experiences, and then my experience and with human services, and
Yeah.
really blending them to build a legacy inside
Love
of
that.
Dorgo. So yeah,
I love that.
put it all together.
I absolutely love that. And I think, again, I'm just really astounded by, it's your fourth and final business. Your kids are all raised and grown. And you are still invested in learning and growing and applying and iterating. And I really love that. Like, we don't ever stop learning.
No.
No.
We try. Okay, so fun fact, we did try to retire. Like we sold all the businesses. I got sick. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 7 years ago now, this month actually. And so that kind of changes some of your perspective and you
Sure.
realize you know, your road might be shorter. So let the things that are most important, let's make them happen faster. So we're like, we slowly started selling off the businesses, we liquidated some of our assets, all that kind of stuff, and we were like, let's retire.
Right.
And so we bought some property over on the Sunshine Coast because I'm from the Vancouver area,
Right.
and we brought some property over there, and we went to spend some time away, like longer periods of time,
Yeah.
6 weeks, 8 weeks, and that lasted 1 year. Um, we lasted 2 months on the coast, and my husband was like, I can't do this. Well, yeah, no, it was one whole year. So we'd gone there twice, so maybe 4 months in total. He was like, yeah, no, we both were like, we thought we'd be like, riding our e-bikes, having coffee, playing pickleball, like all that, be recreationally retired, but we just still had a lot of desire to build
Yeah.
and to expand. And so we thought, let's take that nest egg and spend it all on our fourth business.
The kids get nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. That's what we tell them all the time. They get nothing.
Oh, I love that. But I think that's one thing that entrepreneurs have in common.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my
that's really,
experience. They can't sit still.
yeah,
They've always got to be fiddling with something. They're always interested in learning and growing and moving things forward.
yeah, yeah,
Not necessarily the hustle culture, but they always want to be active, right? They want to be involved,
yeah,
be interested. And so that's the entrepreneurs I like to spend time with, is
yeah,
those people. If you want to build a business so you can sit on the beach in Bali and live your lifestyle, that's super cool too. By all means, go for it.
yeah,
But the people I work with, they love what they do. They
yeah,
they get down with the product or the
yeah,
service.
yeah,
And they want to continue to do that in a meaningful way
yeah,
until they're ready to do something else.
yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of us share.
I feel like that's what we call the true entrepreneur, because even in that retirement, quote unquote retirement, you still look at the gaps and opportunities, and
Yeah.
it's like Yeah, so I think that that's really the true kind of entrepreneur. I agree, right? You're always
Love
looking.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you just sort of as we come to the end of the show here, but what would you say to someone who is, working in their business? They are, they're maybe in that stage where the business is growing and they're struggling to decide, is this the 80 hours this is the way I want to spend 80 of my hours every week, or I I might need to build a team. What would you say to them with all of your experience and knowledge?
Oh, hands down, you need to build a team, period. And we do a lot of recruitment interviews right now for franchise partners. And we talk about the owner operator model versus a scaled model of any
Yeah,
business. And owner operator, you're going to tap out at 3 years, roughly 3 to maybe 5, you can do it, but you're going to burn out by yourself. You just cannot sustain unless that's the lifestyle you want, where you're always, because there's a revenue generating part of your business, but then there's also the other parts of your
yeah,
business. And
yeah,
those need to be done at other times. So you do have to, I know I'm a scaler. That's just what I do. I'm an
yeah,
expander. That's what I do. So I always think, how can you need to know your business so that you can then,
yeah,
so I think there's an important part of knowing the cycle of your business.
yes,
And then I would do this. I would write down, I would always ask the question of who, not how, because we tend to bootstrap a lot. We do too.
yeah,
I'm guilty
yeah,
of this too. And then really writing down what you love to do, what
yeah,
your skill set is,
yeah.
and then what are the other parts that you need to make that whole thing work.
I love
And then
it.
then you would be looking to hire into one of those.
Yeah.
And what I really love nowadays, and this is exactly what you are, is there are fractional
Yes.
support people.
Yeah.
So you don't have to hire, because this is the thing, like I don't want to hire, I don't have enough work for a full-time marketing
No.
director
Yeah.
yet. I will, but I don't yet. So then
Yeah.
there's fractional. How
Yeah.
can I get somebody to work with me on a part-time, or I don't do it hours, I do it on deliverables.
Yeah.
Like these are the deliverables, like so then you have a fractional piece. These are the things that I really require. And I'll tell you from my this last experience right now in this business, this currently happened to us in July or June, I finally made the decision we're hiring a marketing guru.
Yeah.
Fractional. And I cannot tell you because I know enough about marketing to be dangerous and reckless and
Yeah.
spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
But as a CEO, I also have a million other things to do.
Yeah.
So I'm at my bootstrapping is actually holding back our business.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
I think that's a
Look,
great point.
and
Yeah.
nobody feels like my production team is like they don't really feel like, okay, what's our overall vision? Why is it always changing? They feel untethered a bit.
Yeah.
And so you really do have to think about who's, so for me, I would say your first hire is either an assistant, executive or PA, and then who can start. You
Yeah.
do functional HR and executive leadership.
Yeah.
That's perfect because I don't have to make a full-time commitment to you.
No.
I don't have to pay you 120 grand a year,
No.
right? But on a fractional point, oh, and then when you watch somebody who's really designed for that role to actually do that role,
Yeah.
it is a beautiful fucking thing.
It totally is. It totally is. I'm so glad you said that because, I'm going to be a little shameless here. That's one of the things I love to do is actually create the strategy to do that, the people strategy.
Yeah, there you
What are
go.
the,
Yeah,
yeah, what are the things you love to do? What are you
yeah,
good at? What do you need to keep doing in your
yeah,
business, at least in the immediate? Because
yeah,
sometimes there's shit we got to do that nobody else can do. It just is that simple. What are all the other things? And what are the goals? Like, what's in your business plan? What are you
yeah.
looking to accomplish? How do we resource that with the
Yes.
right talent at the right time and get them doing the right things? Make sure you are ready to lead that. Man, that's magical. So I'm so
It
glad you
is.
said that because that is really where business success accelerates, I think.
Well, I mean, in doing that shift, we 3 times our lead generation. And for franchise, that's a lot for
Yeah.
franchising. So our leads, you don't get thousands of them a month. So we 3 times our leads and quality. But the other thing we did is we brought energy into the business for Darren and I, who were the only people, and my assistant. It brought energy into so now once a week we all meet on Zoom. Once a month we all come together as a team, and we just have a great time. And we get work done, we get the marketing work done,
Yeah.
but the fun and bonding that's happening along the way, it's so, I love it, because then I don't have to worry about it. I know that she's got it. She knows she knows what our strategy is, what our
Yeah.
priorities are, because you have to pick right now. And anything that is outside of that gets revisited to me, but I don't
100%.
have to carry it. I don't have to carry it.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
do the same stuff with your people strategy.
Yeah.
What are the priorities? Where
Yeah.
do we need to put our attention and our budget? Because that's
Yeah.
always the consideration, whether it's
100%.
marketing or people,
Yeah.
right? Where do I need to put my attention? Where do I need to put my budget that's going to get me the most lift? Sometimes you said it, it's an assistant. Sometimes it's a bookkeeper. Like,
Yeah.
let's get some of this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
You don't do
Yes.
well. You are the marketing, right?
Yeah.
We're not marketing people.
Yeah.
If we were marketing people, we'd have fractional market. Like, come on now. No, I love
Yeah.
this. I love and this I think what's really impactful here is that this is advice and lessons from like postcards from the edge, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
this this is real advice from someone who has been there and done that, actually on her fourth try now,
Yeah. And doing it. Yeah.
and
Still.
doing it and
Yeah.
doing it and has been really successful at it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's meaningful. That's meaningful advice and reflection.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. I hope your listeners love it.
I I think they're gonna go crazy. Thank you. I am so grateful because I know you are a busy lady. I'm grateful for your time today. I'm grateful for your friendship. I love every conversation that we have. I know you and I could go on for hours,
Yeah.
but we should actually get back to work. So
Yeah.
thank you. I really
I
appreciate.
do. I do have another recruiting call, but yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really, really glad to have this conversation.
It was my pleasure, Lindsay. It was a good time. The first half and this half. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, we'll see you on the flip side.
Yeah, see you on the flip side. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Female Founder Unplugged podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. I feel so lucky that I get to connect with such amazing female entrepreneurs. And if you enjoyed today's session, would you do me a big favor? Would you hit subscribe and give this episode a 5-star review? I'd also love it if you would share with your friends. We've got a goal here at the Female Founder Unplugged podcast to impact 1,000 female founders. And with your help, we can really amplify the message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca. We'll see you next week.